Hey BookTube, it's Tara. After a short hiatus, I am back to do an April and May wrap-up combined. I completed a total of 13 books between the 2 months, and I had 2 DNFs, which are not a part of the 13. So I had 2 3-stars, 5 4-stars, and 6 5-star reads. I will start off with the DNFs. First was Circe. Next was Ariadne. Both of these are Greek retellings, and what I learned is that I don't care for Greek retellings at all. This is a very popular book on BookTube. It's about the character Circe. I forget who she's the daughter of. I got through 30% of this before I was bored. I got through 20% of Ariadne before I was bored. So both of those will go in the giveaway pile. To get into my first 3-star read for the month, Libertie by Kaitlyn Greenidge. I went into this book blind, but I was hooked by the first paragraph. There was a line that said, "I saw my mother raise a man from the dead." I immediately felt that this would be a book about maybe magic or have some type of magic system during the Reconstruction era, right before slavery ended. What it turned out to be was a story about what it means to be free. Not necessarily free as a Black person, but free. I can't really go much more into that without spoiling the book. The main character, Libertie, is a young, dark-skinned girl who's coming of age in this book, and her relationship with her white passing mother starts to deteriorate over time. Her mother is a doctor, healer, medicine woman, and she dreams of Libertie following in her footsteps. I did finish this book even though I was very, very close to DNFing, because I felt that I wanted to know what would come of Libertie and the choices that she decided to take and make in life. This was a character-driven book, which is not my thing. I do appreciate more action in books, so that's why I only gave it 3 stars. It was just okay for me. Opal and Nev, my next 3-star read. This book follows a young, dark Afro-punk singer named Opal. She was discovered when she was around 15 years old by this British songwriter and performer by the name of Nev. So Opal and Nev had about 15 minutes of fame back in the day from a couple of songs that topped the charts. But the majority of their notoriety was from a show that they did that ended up in a race riot. And unfortunately, during that riot, fatality came to one of the members of the band. This was a very good book. However, it did drag some in the middle and a little bit towards the end. What I did find surprising was that one of the characters, there was a realization that was made, I guess, toward the middle end of the book on a character's true identity and their true way of thinking. So I guess that would be the plot twist in the story that I did not see coming. I did find it interesting how the author, Dawnie, Walton, left the end of the book open-ended. And by that, I mean, there is, obviously because there was a race riot, there is a bit of racial tension and racism that's reflected in this book, and it leaves you to question who the racist or the real racist is, so to speak. So I hope that doesn't give too much away. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars, but you know, more like 3 stars. It was a pretty decent book. My next 4-star read is a book called Caul Baby by Morgan Jenkins. So I went into this book blind, and it immediately pulled me in as we're following this family called the Melicon family, which is a very old, Black, powerful family in Harlem, and they're known for their caul, which is this unusual layer of skin that they have on them that has healing properties and also protective properties. And so this family has gotten by in life by selling off pieces of their caul, basically pieces of their skin, to seemingly the highest bidder. and it proved to be a very lucrative business for them. So where this story takes a turn and goes into a more mysterious read is when you start to meet the women of the family, each of which have very different personalities, and it starts to make you question what is really going on in the home. So as the story progresses, these women obviously start to age, and so now the question becomes, as they begin to age out of their Caul and most of their Caul is gone or sold off, they're now faced with how do they carry on their lives and their lifestyle. This book was extremely well done. Towards the end, I did start to lose some interest in the story, as the mysterious and the thrilling parts of the story were mostly over, but I would recommend it. It's a very, very strong 4 stars from me. My next 4-star read was a book called The Lost Apothecary, and this is by Sarah Penner. This book follows 2 timelines, one in the 1700s and one in present day. So you're following a young 12-year-old girl from the 1700s named Eliza, and Caroline, who's a 30-something-year-old married in present day. Both of these women's, well, one's a young girl, their lives take these altering turns when they come up on a lost apothecary. And this apothecary was once in the business of selling potions and tinctures to women who were trying to, or who wanted to, get rid of the men in their lives. So the mystery in this novel is finding out whatever happened to young Eliza back in the 1700s after her mysterious involvement in a certain high-profile businessman's death, as well as the accidental poisoning of Caroline in present day, her husband. You'll have to read the story to really find out what's going on both timelines, but it was a solid 4 stars from me. More of a mystery, but fun read. Next up is a little short book called A Little Bit of Meditation by Amy Lee Mercree, and this book is basically about the history of meditation, why people meditate. It also has guided meditations toward the end of the book. Short read, but very informative on meditation and the benefits of it. So that's really all I have to say about this. I gave it 4 stars. All right, my next 4-star reads, I'll put them together. Poppy War and Dragon Republic. This is part of a trilogy. I'm reading The Burning God right now, which is the 3rd book in the trilogy. I thought this was a YA series. It is not. Erica at the Broken Spine kindly told me it was not, especially after I wrote my review on Instagram, specifically for the Poppy War, in that it's very graphic. There's a lot of cussing. I guess definitely not YA. So this starts off with 12-year-old Ren, a young girl who is kind of like a pauper. She's poor. She lives in this poor, rundown, nobody really heard of it town, where she was adopted, but she lives as basically, I guess, the handmaid to the woman that secretly sells opium, and that's how they make their living. Anyway, she ends up receiving an opportunity to test to get into a very elite military school called Synagard, and she works her butt off, studies like crazy to get in, and she is the only one, I believe, in the span of maybe 30 plus years in her specific town to be able to test into the school. And so the series follows Ren from 12 years old to, I want to say, young 20s maybe, I'm not sure, as she learns to fight, study, stick up for herself. Ren is a very dark-skinned character, so there's a lot of colorism that goes on here, classism that goes on here, since she's from the poor side of town, and now she's dealing with kids that are born and bred for the type of military training that they're learning at Synagard. Very action-packed, like I said, very graphic in some areas. It does have a magic system. It deals with gods, learning how to work with the gods, learning how to have certain powers to help you in training, in combat, in what you need to do in order to fight in the Dragon Republic, you know. So like I said, there's colorism, there's sexism, there's physical and mental abuse that goes on here. But her determination in herself is what really pushes the story forward. It kind of reminds me, when I was reading the Poppy War specifically, of the Karate Kid. You know how he starts off this wimpy kid, if you will, but turns into this fierce martial artist, and it's almost the same with Ren. So I'm enjoying it. I'm on the third book, The Burning God. I'm getting kind of burnt out with the story because, you know, you had this book which was kind of long, then this one is longer, and The Burning God is even longer. You know, so I'm ready for the series to be over. Both of these books are written by R.F. Kuang. If you haven't heard of them, they're actually, it's a pretty good series, but like I said, I'm starting to get kind of burned out with all of them because it's a tad bit repetitive in my opinion, but very good otherwise. Okay, 5-star reads. How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps Her House by Cherie Jones. I read this book in one day. It was that good. It's set in 1980s Barbados, and it follows two different women. One by the name of Lala and the other by the name of Mirror. And both stories, both women, their stories were intertwined by the end of the book. You don't really know how in the beginning, but everything comes full circle towards the end. So the book starts off with Lala's grandmother telling her the fable about the one-armed sister who sweeps her house. And it's more of a warning to Lala about heeding wisdom and the dangers that can come to you when you don't listen. And unfortunately, the women in this book, it's almost as if it's one long generational curse that's happening. So the women do suffer greatly in this book. The less you know going in, the better the storyline will be for you. Again, it's not a long read at all, and I gave it 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. My next 5-star read is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. This is my first Toni Morrison book, and I am blown away by her writing. She is a phenomenal author. So this is a very sad book, extremely sad. It follows a young 11-year-old girl by the name of Piccola Breedlove, and she wishes and prays to have blue eyes along with the likeness of being white, because she feels that this will make her life better, this will make her more likable. Piccola's story is one of pain and sorrow, but it doesn't just follow her story. We also learn about her father, Charlie, who has a penchant for doing unmentionable things to little girls. But he's such a complex and flawed character that you also learn about his life of pain and confusion and sorrow as well. And this is a real tribute to Toni Morrison's writing, because even the ancillary characters in this story, you know, the ones who are in essence looking at Piccola, judging her situation, judging her father, the characters, every character in this book is written in such a complex way that they're humanized to the point where you can't really judge them for what's happening and for the choices and actions that they're taking and making. So even though it's extremely sad, I did give this book 5 out of 5 stars because it did tell a very compelling story. Again, The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. My next 5-star read, Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. Who hasn't heard of this book, or the Brown sisters for that matter? So this is the last of the Brown sisters, young Eve. And yes, it is a love story, how Eve ends up in a relationship with her boss working at a bed and breakfast. This has autism rep, disability rep, of course, interracial love, The diversity is amazing. Her grandma, Gigi, and her cute little pansexual self. I want a spinoff of just Gigi. I completely adored this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I would say that each book has gotten better, like from Chloe to Dani to Eve. I love the series. This was a top read for me. The next book I rated 5 stars was a collection of poetry called The Sun and Her Flowers by Rupi Kaur. Like I said, it's a collection of poetry about grief and self-abandonment, honoring one's roots, love, empowering oneself. It does have 5 different sections. The first section is called Wilting, the next one's called Falling, the next one's Rooting, the next one's Rising, and the final one is Blooming. So you can see the progression. This was a very raw, open, and honest collection of poetry. I really felt the depth in what Rupi was trying to convey within the poetry, and there's some artwork as well that was very beautiful to look at while reading it. So 5 out of 5 stars for this short collection of poetry. Next 5-star read is called The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichec. This is a book about Norse mythology, so different than Greek mythology. Norse mythology follows characters such as Loki, Thor, Odin, Angrboda. If you've ever watched any Marvel film or show, then you're familiar with these characters, and I've watched practically everything Marvel. So because I was familiar with the characters and their magic system, I was able to really fully immerse myself into this world and into this story, which is why I enjoyed it so much. So you're following a witch. Her name is Angrboda, and her alleged love story between her and Loki, and they end up married. They bear 3 children together. One ends up being a young girl who was kind of disabled. The next child turns out to be a wolf, and the 3rd child is a snake. Loki in himself is a shapeshifter, and she's a witch, so I guess it kind of makes sense that they're giving birth to animals. But it all comes together in such a way to where it's going to end where her 3 children take part in Ragnarok. Not necessarily like Thor Ragnarok the movie, but there is a culmination of world destruction that happens and what key elements and parts these 3 kids play. There is an element of sapphic romance that happens as well within the novel, so you do have that diversity representation. The story mostly is about Angrboda, her history, and her relationship with Loki, but toward the middle and end, you do get other elements of the story and how it all kind of culminates toward the end. So again, I absolutely loved it. I'm surprised that I did. I really didn't know that much going into it. Plus, with it being mythology, I was like, I don't know, but it was great. 5 out of 5 stars. Last 5 out of 5 star book, Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. I have read this book 4 times, maybe 5. I own the physical copy, I own the Kindle version, I own the Audible version. That's how much I love this book. True story. It's a memoir. It's about Elizabeth Gilbert's journey in life, where she goes and stays in Italy and learns the art of eating. Then goes to India, learns the art of praying, ends up in Bali, learns the art of loving. And this is a year-long journey. Like, I want to say 4 months here, 4 months here, 4 months here. Gosh. Like I said, I've read this book 4 times, and it never gets old for me. I always find something new to highlight. Her story is absolutely, you wouldn't believe it unless you read it. You know, what she was able, and it was more of an inner journey versus nothing seriously negative happened to this woman. You know, she wasn't destitute or poor. I mean, she had obviously she was well off in order to travel the world as she did, and, you know, stay away for a year and give her ex-husband everything that he asked for in the divorce, and go on this journey to find inner self-love, and learn what it means to live a life for you of full richness and abundance. It was a very spiritual, heavy book, not religious, but just, again, inner peace, meditation, guidance, all of that. So this book really speaks to me every time I read it. I absolutely love it. I highly recommend it. 5 out of 5 stars. And that is the end of this video. So thank you guys for watching and sticking through my 2-month wrap up. To new subscribers, thank you for subscribing to my channel and for appreciating the content. If you have not subscribed and would like to see other videos from me, please consider doing so. Like the video, share, comment what you're reading or have been reading for the past 2 months. If you've read any of the books I've talked about, how you feel about them. I'd love to hear and discuss with you down below, and I will talk to you in the next one. Bye.